We'll talk about that.
It's quite poor. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Ian and this channel is all about music and art. And in this video we're going to explore this synthesizer, the brand new Mini Korg 700 FS. Now, full disclosure, my company Sinners Music is the main dealer for Korg, and this is the prototype 700S or FS to give it its proper title. Now, the FS part of it could stand for full size, like when Korg brought out the limited edition ARP 2600 FS. And later this year we see ARP 2600M, which will be available, which is a 60% version size of the ARP 2600 FS. So does this mean that the Mini Korg 700 SM with mini keys could be on the card for next year? No idea. And if Korg are planning that, they haven't told me. Anyway, this prototype Mini Korg 700 FS has been sent to me on loan and will be going back to Korg as soon as I've finished with it. But Korg are not paying me for these videos and they will not be vetting the finished product. So this is a warts and all review. This channel is funded by you, the viewers, from the ad that you've just skipped. My growing number of Patreon supporters, thank you very much guys, and the affiliates link in the description down below. Now, I did do a first impressions unboxing video when it arrived the other day, and that video is linked down below. And in this video I'm going to explore this new 700 and we'll take a deep dive into all of its functionality, and then we'll do a follow-up video and we'll see what the differences are between my original 700, which is sat up there, and this new 700 FS. There is also a video looking at the presets of the 700S. The old ones from 1974 manual and the new presets which come installed with the factory setup. There's no talking on that video apart from an introduction, although I do tweak the presets to get some very interesting sounds. So again, all of these are linked in the description down below. But first of all, a history lesson. The Mini Korg 700 came out in 1973. It's a single oscillator mono synth when it first launched and cost around just under £350, which is the equivalent to £3,750 in today's money. But it was still half the price of the competitors, the Mini Moog and the ARP Odyssey. And of course, the ARP Odyssey has been lovingly recreated by Korg and is a Korg current model now. In early 1974, Korg launched the Mini Korg 700S, a two-oscillator version of the 700, with a second control panel on the top of the synth, which Korg calls the effects section. And it is this version of the 700S that the new 700FS is based on. In 1974, the 700S cost £499, which in today's money is equivalent to £4,835. But this extra oscillator made this an altogether more powerful synthesizer. You could independently tune the second oscillator. It had white and pink noise sources, filter modulation, which Korg called travel vibrato, and a sustain long switch that multiplied the envelope time by a factor of 10. The effects section also added 3 modes of ring modulation. 2 of these modes tracked the keyboard and were ideal for synthy leads and bass sounds, whereas the third modulation did not track, which meant that each key you played produced a different timbre. The effects section also had a balance control, which would be used to balance the volumes of the effects section and the front panel. There was also a duet switch which would allow the effects section and the front panel to be able to combine. There is also a switch where you can switch off the effects section completely, in effect turning it back into an original Mini Korg 700. So that was the original Mini Korg 700S. So let's have a look at what new functionality Korg have added to the FS model. On the top panel effects section, Korg have added a pitch bend and a mod A or B section. The mod A or B section will allow you to modulate oscillators 1 or 2. Behind the effects section on the top we have 2 banks of 7 presets with a panel bank and write buttons, and we'll explain them in a little while. On the back we have a headphone socket with an independent volume control, something the original never had. Stereo left and right, which is interesting on a mono synth, which leads me to think that the synth is mono but the spring reverb is stereo. An audio in, and all of these are on 1/4" jack. We then have a bank of 4 mini jacks, a gate, CV, sync, and along with the sync out. We also have a 5-pin DIN MIDI in socket along with a USB type B socket. There is a spring reverb, yes, a real spring, and the welcome addition of a hole switch. I can't tell you the times that I've had to use a fishing weight to hold down the keys on my old 700. We also have aftertouch on the keyboard, although there is no velocity, and an arpeggiator, which we'll have a little look at in a while. What I thought would be a good idea would be to actually just take you through how I used to use it. Now, in 1980, I joined a band who had just got signed to their first record deal, and we put out an album. And that was a band called Nerve Center. Here is a quick snippet of me playing Korg 700 in the studio. This is what I used to use as a prompt. So I'd have the things I was playing, but on the back I would also have the settings for the synth. Now it was a 700, so we didn't have this panel, but so let's just set this up. So, and you can see how sort of quickly I could do it when we were playing live. There we are, it's done. Now what this card doesn't say is that on the song I used to switch between the 8-foot scale and the 4-foot scale, and what I will do is I will play along to the original recording at the end of this video so you can see how exactly how I used to play the song. I used to use a tape reverb, but we've got this fantastic spring reverb on here. So here is how the main riff for the song goes. So let's go through all of the settings, what we've got here. So we have our spring reverb, which has got quite a bit of and without it when it's dry. Let's look at the traveller. So we go from naught . And actually what Korg have done is they have given, with this new version, they've given a set of travel knobs without these little indents, and apparently what people used to do, I never did, but people would cut them off, because then you could argue that you get more flexibility because you could move them in both directions. Moving on to attack and percussion. Attack and percussion is very much part of what we've come to know as an ADSR, and it's very flexible with the sustain. And the good thing about the way that this is all set up, everything is color coded, so these three together will make up what is in effect an ADSR. So when everything's off, we've got a very percussive sound. If we pull down the attack, we'll get a very late. And if we want to add a bit of sustain to that, we could. We've also got the balance, which is coming to part of that, but we'll come on to the top section in a bit. So if we bring percussion, so we've got attack and slow, percussion and singing is how they describe it. So that basically means that we've got just turn the sustain off. So when the singing's on full, it will stay all the time. So you can see it's got an awful lot of flexibility with just those three settings. Moving swiftly on, we have the scale, which has 2 foot, 4, 8, 16 and 32, and we've seen those. This is again back from organ days. I think it was meant to be pipes. And that was the beauty of the Korg 700 and the 700S, is that we have these beautiful low bass sounds that we could get out of it. Moving up to the 2. So next we're on to modes. We've got triangle. It's just very clean. Put it on 8. Square. Sawtooth. And then we have 2 choruses. And again, back to our colour coding part, we've also got these 2 options. So one is expand. Let's put it on, say, play it without, play with expand. And we've also got a bright control. We can put both of them together. You see that, so they are adding coloration to the modes that we've got. So, and Korg describe expand as a control that is a subdivision of the traveller circuit. It provides capturing effect when used in conjunction with the traveller and attack and percussion group. Good for creating brass, underwater effects, bubbling effects and growls. So let's just try that with... I think when they expand and bright together, they tend to work really well together. On its own, it feels a little bit like nothing much is happening there, really. Bright also, they provides, according to Korg, bright provides additional high frequency harmonic structure or an added brilliance or a presence. So we can see what the difference is there. Moving on, we have that sustain switch again, which if we've got, but we want to have some sustain, the bender provides an additional slide at the beginning of each of the notes. It's like a slur or a glissando type effect. So it will turn it off. So the repeat does what it says on the tin. Repeats on its own when we've got an amount of how much repeat or how the speed of the repeat here. But we've now also got a hold, which is new. So I can press a note and hold it. Now, before we had the hold in the original one, I used to use one of these things, which is a weight. So I put a weight on the key. Now we're on to vibrato. So we've got speed and depth over here. It can get quite weird and wonderful very quickly. The other thing we have is we have a delayed vibrato, which will give us no vibrato at the beginning and then bring it in. And the delay vibrato will always overwrite the actual vibrato button. You don't need both on. And lastly, on this section, we've got portamento, which I have to say I have used to great effect in the past. And it's very easy to use, so it Moving on to the top section. So what we have, first of all, we have a balance control here. And what this does is we can use this to balance the volume of the effects section with the front panel section. And sliding the level up will extenuate the effects section. So let's put the effects on and turn it all the way off. Turn the effect off. Now what we can do is we can bring in some of this stuff that's going on. We can tune the pitch of the second oscillator. We can change the modulators. So we also have a coarse and a fine pitch control for the second oscillator. So if I just bring that up to we can tune those. Or detune them. We've also got a sustain long down here, which so if I turn that off and we just have the sustain on, that's the length of it. As we said, this sustain long extends it by up to 10 times. But we do need to have this on. We also have what's called travel vibrato. And what this does, this makes the traveller control operate according to the vibrato speed and the intensity. So if I put some vibrato on, not the delayed, and we put some turn that off. Back on. So the duet combines the effects section and the front panel section. We can use the pitch control to match the pitches of the effects. That's all front panel. So modulator 1 and 2 create ring modulators. And there we have modulator 3. We've also got noise 1 and 2. And the last thing we need to look at is the arpeggiator. We need to hit repeat, and what happens is when we play a chord, it will play the notes in the order that I put my fingers down. So now, remembering that this is a prototype, the problem I see with this at the moment is that if I want to, let's speed it up a bit. So that's fine. If I now want to move to the next chord, I'd like to see somewhere that would be programmable. Now, maybe that is coming down the road. Maybe there's going to be a way to do that with a piece of software. I don't know, and maybe it will be slightly different in the production version. But I found that slightly annoying. wanted to keep the same pattern going, I can't always guarantee that that's going to happen. So if we try C, I'm not convinced it's always playing the same way. The other thing I noticed, and it hasn't done it today, is that when I played two notes, rather than just playing I was getting like a random pattern. Having said that, I think that's a great improvement over the original because we just didn't have that capability. When we come to look at the presets, and there are two banks, so the red bank and the blue bank. Now to write, when we click on, so we've got 7 of each, and then we've got a panel button, and the panel button can be, you can overwrite any of the, you can use any of those presets as a starting point. So if I wanted to put that sound into preset, I press the right button, hold the right button, and then press whichever one I wanted it to go into. We don't have a definitive UK price, but most retailers have it listed at £1,799. So let's have a final roundup of the pros and cons of this new Mini Korg 700FS. First of all, the positives. It's a Mini Korg 700S, the instrument that I love, and it has been brought up to date with all of the extras regarding the CV, sync capabilities and MIDI. I love the addition of the presets, and that reverb means that I don't have to reach for an external effects processor every time you want to use it, and that hold button is a godsend. I'm liking the addition of the arpeggiator, but I'm hoping for more flexibility with it. Possibly a series of patterns including randomization, although this issue may be resolved by plugging in Korg's SQ1 step sequencer via the sync CV gate option. Sadly, I don't have access to an SQ1 to try that out. And so on to the negatives. We're not sure about the price, but if it is a pound shy of £1,800, then I think it's too expensive. I'd like to see it sub 1,000. We need to remember that when the 700S came out, it was in the budget end of the synthesizer market. And for all its quirkiness, the addition of a very nice heavy hard case doesn't give it that sub £2,000 price tag. But I may be pleasantly surprised when the price is actually released. I only really have two real gripes. The 12 volt power supply feels a little wobbly in the socket round the back, and these switches are on plastic spikes and not metal ones like the original. I can see them breaking off, although we must remember this is a prototype and these issues may be resolved in the production model. So thanks very much for watching. In the next video I'll compare the old 700 with this new one. Take care and I'll see you then. Cheers now, bye bye.
Passed away.